Okay, so let's continue our talk of this BIM for the construction management. So if you recall, last time we talked about a concept called a pre-con or pre-construction. So basically, for a lot of design or for a lot of industries, we don't build the product uh, uh, as the first step. We actually build it virtually and try to fix all the potential problems. And before we move to the actual assembly phase. Let me move the assembly phase, okay? So like, for example, the airplane design and also the cars. But for a lot of construction projects, we often just go to the job site directly. It's the mentality in the construction industry. People often believe that we need to get our hands dirty. It shows that we're the construction guys. Unfortunately, it's not the most effective way to solve the potential problems. So that's why the pre-com or pre-construction activities is extremely important for general contractors or builders. So a lot of like you guys, a lot of you are trained as engineers. You probably wouldn't know the image in your mind for the builders is probably people with a safety vest and doing the concrete pouring or doing the tower crane heavy lifting. Actually, no. For a lot of general contractors, they actually outsource a lot of the works. I don't know if you guys know that. For a particular project, like commercial project, we usually have around 10 to 15 subcontractors. And most general contractor, they only do the concrete and they do the surveys. So basically for general contractor, we are talking about managing the budget, the time, the logistics, the safety, the controls, the reporting. So they're more like, they act more like a manager. And usually a lot of general contractors, they don't own a lot of staff members. Of course, they have this project manager, general foreman, and superintendents, but they have this a lot of temporary workers and they outsource a lot of their works. So that's why if you want to go for the business in the construction, you have to understand the importance of pre-con and also know how to do it. So a typical thing you see for construction companies or general contractors look like this, meetings after meetings, talking about a 3-week look ahead schedule, talk about what we call the weekly detailed planning to decide the head count for each of the activities or things like this, with some bar charts on the wall, with some set map on the wall, and people just trying to figure out the best location for the trailers, how to move the tower crane, and make phone calls to different suppliers, make sure they will be delivered on time to the job site. That is the life of a construction company. And the pre-con service, like I mentioned, that includes estimating, value engineering, constructability review, bidding strategy, logistics, planning, scheduling, subcontractor solicitation, sustainability concerns. So I think I covered this one briefly 2 weeks ago, but I found you guys are not quite familiar with what we call the construction project lifecycle or the activities, complete activities for the construction project. So I'm just decide to cover them in more detailed way. So this is actually the view of a project. In roughly speaking, we have the planning phase, design phase, contracting phase, construction phase, closeout phase, and operation and maintenance phase. If you are trained as a civil engineer or mechanical engineer or architect, you are learning a lot of things only for this phase, the design phase. And if you're trained as a construction management student or construction manager, you are doing a lot of things related to this phase, right? If you recall the curriculum you are taking, if you are from the construction program, you probably take a lot of things related to estimating, scheduling, safety management, right? And if you are taking the civil engineering course, then you probably just take structural design like steel, concrete, soil. But that's only just a small portion of the complete project. So actually, let's talk about different phases. What's happening in different phases? So you will get a better understanding how BIM is important for each of the phases. So planning phase, usually planning phase is mainly the owner's responsibility. So the owners will make a go or no go decision, if we want to do this project or not. So the first step is called programming. So the programming basically defines the needs of the user. So for example, I'm a big gas and oil and gas company in Houston. I know my business is increasing, so I want to build a new office building for the new employees, and so I want to basically define financial needs for this project and how much the area size I need for the new building, how many people I'm going to recruit, and what is the procedures we need to have to get approval from the board, and also how we will seek for the funding for this project. So usually this one will be started, by the engineering department in, a big company, or if we are school board, the school board will have a meeting talking about the need for a new school, and also how much the need look like and where to get the funding. Okay. So the end of this step is called something called a detailed project program. It's a document called a DPP, basically specify why we are doing this project and how the project would look like, what our consideration for the structure of the project, and how much we would need to build the project and where the funding will be from. That's called DPP. Okay. And then once we have the program, we will have this feasibility study. So the owner would hire, like CPAs, would hire some engineers to start some initial financial feasibility and engineering feasibility study. So for example, the owner would study the initial cost, would perform the initial cost analysis to see the range of the cost. It's nothing accurate at this point of time, but it's more kind of like, would this cost me, my company, $1 million or $2 million, the big range of that. And of course, you also perform the site analysis. So for example, where are we going to build it, and what's the surrounding building? Depending on the surrounding building, what kind of foundation system we need to use, how difficult it is to control the traffic, and should we obtain the geotechnical reports and to know more about the ground, things like that. And also we review the existing structure. That will basically determine, if we want to do a lot of a demolition, if we need to have a special way for the foundation and also for the construction phase, facility and infrastructure project. And the end of this feasibility study is a document called project charter. So the project charter is actually signed by the main stakeholders, such as your like a CEO, CFO, and the main engineering department who was responsible for the initial feasibility study. Basically, the document shows the acknowledgement of this project. So we know this project and we commit our resource, and we do have a consensus on the rough idea of this project. So that's called this project charter. And then we will go into this conceptual design phase. At this point in time, this is still not design phase, it's still conceptual. Usually people just use some SketchUp, to describe what the shape, what the volume, the appearance look like. It's totally hypothetical. So we are imagining probably like a 5 to 10, different options. And usually people will do internal vote, like what, I think you guys probably have experienced that. Like if your school is building a new building, they want to get the idea from the students and the faculty, how it would look like. They present you with several options, you vote for them. And that is called a conceptual design. And SketchUp, we used to call it the Google SketchUp, that program, but now it's September. SketchUp is very popular for conceptual design because of the easiness of using that program. And we explore different ideas. And there's a very new idea called the target value design. So anybody heard about this concept? It's part of the lean construction. Anybody from the classroom knows this concept, target value design? Nobody? So what is the regular way of doing a design? The regular way of doing a design is You tell me the function you need, okay? And based on, let's say, I want to build this 10-story building to host 2,000 people. And I want this to be a frame structure. I want it to be in downtown Miami, for example. Then the designer will basically do the design, and we calculate the cost in a bottom-up way. I have this design first, and I calculate the cost, and then I want to see if you're okay with the cost or not. Target value design use the opposite way. I give you a dollar amount. That is the budget I have, the maximum you can use. And please use this one as the cap and do some design for me, but still satisfy my function requirements. You guys got the point? So basically, it's kind of like, I do have this fixed budget consideration, and you cannot go beyond that, but I still want you to give me really beautiful design. That's called a target value design. It's a concept from the lean construction. You guys probably heard about lean construction, right? Anybody?
Yeah.
So the lean construction is something called reducing the waste but maximizing the value. Okay, target value design. Why this is useful? Why this is functional? Um, I guess it's because of psychology. Like if you are giving a designer unlimited resource to do the designer would just use a lot of imagination, and probably there's no constraint for the use of materials, for the use of design. But if you're telling the designer and engineer from day one that we do have a goal for the budget and you cannot go beyond that, they will keep that in mind, and that will basically penetrate into their all phases of their design, and definitely there's a bigger chance we'll achieve that goal. So TVD, target value design, is actually a very useful concept for the planning phase. And think about the potential use of a BIM in this area. Actually, we used to have a guest speaker from engineering company, and they focus a lot on target value design. They developed this workflow of using SketchUp, can easily interact with the owner, try different designs, and by the side they have this function to calculate the rough estimate of this design. By adding one level, they know, for sure you are adding another $1.5 million. So then the owner would be able to see, how close we are to the cap of the budget, and also how the current design looks like. This interactive process is actually very value generating. Okay, so now the planning phase is the owner's activity. So once I design, we enter the design phase. Okay, so upon this time, the owner will sign a contract with a design company, like an architecture company. And so the architecture company will work on different levels of design, something such as, I don't know if I show you here, not here, like a schematic design, like design development and the construction documents. You can imagine, its schematic design is probably 20% done with the design. There's not enough details, but you can definitely see the orientation, the configuration, the shape of the structure. And design development is around 50% down. You start to see some structural information, more information about architectural features. And then we have this CD construction document. So you have a complete details such as the rebars, the schedules of materials, the doors, the windows, all the detail. So that's called the design development, the entire process. And the deliverables would be what? Specifications and drawings, the two deliverables. One is the written material showing what we call the materials and the workmanship requirements, and drawings, the visualized way of showing pretty much the same information. Okay, so let me ask you a question. Have you guys ever seen specifications before?
Yes.
You have seen okay,
Mm-hmm.
just you. So let me
Yeah.
give me a second. Let me find one for you so you know the size of it, the information contained in that. Okay, so let me stop sharing my screen for. I saw somebody put a. Oh yes, to answer a question, it's next week. The 4D project and the light up, the 4D and the scanning project next week. Okay,
So they're both, oh, I'm sorry, I just wanted to clarify. So they're both 10 minutes long?
Yes, yes. So that's why we combine them together.
Okay, so each group is going for 20 minutes, right?
Yeah, actually, I don't think that will take that long, you know, since you are just showing a 3D model for one of that. I guess,
Okay.
yeah, imagine 20 minutes is the maximum
Oh,
cap
okay.
you have. Yes, yeah.
Thank
Okay,
you.
yeah. You guys can see this, oops, what happened? You guys can see this big book. And this is actually a specification, a real specification from the a garage building. And what you see here is the table of contents. I don't know if you can see that here. Can you guys see the detail of this? So this is table of contents. It's showing different divisions, right? Division 00, division 01. And I think I told you guys what that is. 03 division is concrete, 04. What's this? What's the coding system they're using? CSI master format, recall that?
Yes,
Yeah,
I just got quizzed on this.
Yeah, great. Yeah, so this is WBS, right? Work breakdown structure.
Yes.
And this is something called a construction CSI. What's the CSI? Construction Standard Institute. They publish something called a master format. And the majority of construction companies, I think it's about 60% of construction companies are using this one to organize their estimate, their cost. So let's say I'm working on construction ABC. You are working for a different construction company, but if I say, oh, I'm talking about the 03300, you know that's about cast in place concrete because we are using the same coding system. Make sense? So that's actually how the specification look like. And if you go inside, the beginning of that would be the agreement you have. So for example, it shows like a different, you need to be, for example, A, B to have certain discount, and also the payment requirements, when you can bill me, when I will pay. There's a place for like everybody to sign, and it shows evaluation of the proposal, like how we evaluated this proposal, and also this is the bidding document you sent. It shows that this is the bid amount, and also the signature from different parties, and also agreement, like sign it. And finally, if we go to some of the details here, for example, this is not a good example. Let me find something with a construction activity. For example, this one is section 02200. So that's the code for site work. And this one we'll talk about section 1 is scope. That means what? And then talks about the reference points. For example, you have to follow certain ASTM standards. Then you have to set them here, or we need to follow this one. Subsurface and soil condition, so general use of data, set requirements. So basically, set clearly means what? Set preparation means what? And actually, it shows a lot of details, such as the stockpile, top 4 inch of topsoil for final grading use, and shows that a minimum of 5 passes of fully loaded dump truck or similar heavily loaded pieces of construction equipment should be used. So talks about a lot of details, and the fueling, protection, dewatering, specific requirements, trench excavation, backfilling should be done in what way. For example, this process shall be repeated until a minimum of 7 inch of materials above the path should be placed, and you should refer to the ASTM D698 standard. And there should be a material requirements, topsoil cleaning. Okay. And also talks about the permits and warranty. Okay, so this is specification. You know, it's actually really tedious, contains a lot of information. And later on, for those that involve labor, it will also talk about something called the workmanship. So basically, evaluate that how we would evaluate the quality of your work. We will either use some kind of standard or how we will perform the job site evaluation to make sure you follow the the original design. So that's called a specification. And the drawings, you guys are probably very familiar with drawings, right? So it's just a structural drawing, architecture drawing, mechanical drawing, set plan, and for certain projects, you also have something called shop drawing. What is shop drawing, guys? Anybody?
All the equipment and basically equipment drawings.
The shop drawing actually means, for the
fabrication.
Fabrication, yes, correct. So if you have some steel column and steel beams, and you need to send them to a shop to punch holes and to create a certain size of screws, and you have to show that clearly in a drawing, that's called a shop drawing. It's extremely time consuming to produce those information. Okay, so that's how the specification look like and drawing look like. So who produced these documents? The designer. Okay, and why they are producing this document, that is about the next phase. Okay, contracting phase. So basically for contracting, now let's say the owner hired this design company and also hired this engineering company. They produce this perfect specification and the drawing. Now they will announce, hey everybody, we have a project. And they basically announce it through different channels, like the trade magazines or some website. And they also pre-qualify bidders a lot of times. So for example, the bidders must have 5-year experience with similar project. Actually, in this specification, the first part of the specification includes the announcement for this project. So it shows that it's actually a language from this particular project, the garage building, that the bidders must have 5-year experience with similar project. Or this is also popular, the EMR must be 1.0 or less for the last 3 years. Question, what is the EMR? Anybody? No? EMR is experience modified rate. Once again, experience modified rate. It shows the multiplier for your insurance premium. So construction companies must obtain insurance from insurance company or building company, and they apply a multiplier to that. So for example, this is my average rate, and if you have really good record, safety record, I give you a discount. So your rate would be more, what, for example, 0.9. But if you had some accidents before, there's a formula, your EMR will be higher than 1, let's say 1.2. That means you are paying 20% more than the average company. Make sense? So this one then becomes a quick evaluation metrics to show the safety record of a company. And this is also often seen in the announcement. And so then the contractor will need to submit a questionnaire, what we call the worksheet or the qualification questionnaire developed by the owner, or there's an AIA form called AIA A305 contractor's qualification statement, and to satisfy the pre-qualify requirements. And then the owner will basically announce that newspapers, journals, or Dodge reports or different government or business journals or different government website. And then if you as the general contractor is interested in this project, you will start prepare your bids. Quick question here: who will pay for the drawings and specifications to prepare the bid? Anybody?
Owner?
No, general contractor. Owner don't care. So basically, if you as the general contractor, you are interested in bidding this project, you have to go to a copy room or whatever places the owner side, and you will need to go there and pay to buy the drawings and the specifications. Actually, I bought this one just for teaching purpose, okay? And also the drawings, I also purchased that. Sometimes it can be like a couple $100, like $100, $200. It's expensive business. And then they usually only give you 30 days to prepare the schedule and estimates. And usually the average chance for a general contractor to win the project is only 1/4 or 1/5. You guys get the understanding now how risky to run a construction business. You are spending your time, your energy, your money to do a lot of estimate, but there's still only about 20% chance if we win the project. Everything will be paid back later. Okay. And then you have to submit either mail or submit in person your bids in a closed envelope. Sometimes must be stamped as well, sealed envelope to a place before the deadline. So if you are late, definitely your bid wouldn't be considered. Unfortunately, this is very strict. And then the owner will notify all the bidders a date and a place. And everybody will go to that. Usually it's a room. And we have something called a bid reading. Yeah. Anybody? Okay. And we will have a bid reading. So basically the owner will open the bid and just read loudly the name of the company and also the number. And then usually the lowest bidder would win the project. So this is actually a very interesting game, I have to say. And sometimes the owners, don't just pick the lowest bidder. They also, have something called a request for qualification. So they basically have this combined mixed review. Yes, your asking price is probably higher than other general contractors, but I think you have a good qualification. I trust that. So owner do have the, right to pick the general contractor however they want, right? It can be linked to more to the qualification part, or can be more to the price part. And like I said earlier, the general contractor can also submit something called alternates. What is alternates? I mentioned that last week. Anybody? What is alternate? So basically the general contractor, they can add an additional form to the bidding document showing that I don't like this design. I think we can make a better design. This is my recommendation. And if you select this design, it would save you this much dollar. And this option A is my bid based on the design you sent to us. And this number B is the estimate based on the design I proposed. And if the owner says, oh, that's a great idea, I approve that. That is called accepted alternates, which means I also like the idea, the general contractor's idea submitted to me. Make sense? And here there's a very unique thing called the bid shopping or bid peddling. You guys know this concept, bid shopping or bid peddling? Anybody? Nobody? Okay. So bid shopping and bid peddling means, I'm the owner and I received this number from a certain construction company and I received another number from the other company. So I go to the second company and I say, you know what? That company, actually the price is $200,000 lower than your price, but I really like you. If you're willing to lower your price, I would definitely give this price to you, give this contract to you. And the second company lower that, guess what? The owner probably would get that new price and go to the first company and say, you know what? He actually reduces, price by $250,000, but I still like you. Can you further lower your price? So this behavior is called bid shopping. And bid shopping means, I compare the price. And before we open in the bid peddling is kind of like I keep repeating this kind of activity until I keep lowering all the prices. Now, quick question for the class is just guys, it is legal?
No.
The answer is yes. It's totally legal in the United States. It's unethical, but it's legal. Why? I don't know. Actually, 2003, they performed a big survey, nationwide survey, and asked the general contractors, um, do you know how many of your friends or how many of your companies you know have ever practiced bid shopping? And the answer is 70%. Okay. But if you ask a question, have you ever practiced bid shopping? The answer is only around 20%. So that's so interesting. It's kind of like when I ask you, hey, have you ever done this thing before? No. But if I ask, did your friend, do this before? And then the true number is around 70%. So think about that, guys. About 70% of construction company, not construction, 70% of owners have done this business, to lower the price. And this is human nature, right? So if you want to hire a contractor to repaint their wall or to cut their tree, it's very likely you are doing the same thing. Like, oh, I have been talking to other companies, their price are much lower. And then the contractor might say, oh, I can also lower my price. How much you want? That's called a bid shopping. And it's totally illegal, just not ethical. Okay. By the way, I forgot this part, I talked about this one last time. Can anybody now tell us what is value engineering? Is part of design phase. What is value engineering? We talked about that last week. Nobody? Come on, guys. So value engineering was invented in World War II, basically by two mechanical engineers from the United States. And their goal was to save money by changing the design, by replacing the materials without affecting the functions and the quality of work at all. So a lot of times we are over designing. You guys probably can feel that, right? So like I'm over designing the rebars I'm using. I'm using some materials that is probably too much for this project. So value engineering is a way to push the water out and to just reduce the unnecessary part, unnecessary design, unnecessary material use from the design until I cannot further do that without affecting the quality and the function of my project. So that's called value engineering. It's also, once again, a very popular practice today for the design phase. Okay, so the design is not just one thing, guys. The design is evolving. You have one design, you keep changing that until you reach a better goal. Okay, so now let's say finally we pick the contract, and then we send this contract. The owner will send this contract with the general contractor, and the general contractor around the same time will send a contract with the subcontractors, and then the official document the owner will be issuing is called a notice to proceed, or N2P, NTP. So it shows exactly the start date and the completion date. It's lighter, 2 pages usually, called a notice to proceed. Sometimes the general contractor say, we are ready to go tomorrow. And this is called early start. So it's earlier than the specified start day in the notice of proceed. Then instead of having this notice of proceed, the owner will issue something called a letter of intent to replace the notice to proceed until we approach the actual start date. Okay, that's all the contractual requirements. Now we are in the construction phase. Unlike a lot of people think, the first activity in the construction phase is not a construction at all. It's actually procurement. So we need to sign a contract with subcontractors. That's also procurement. And we want to do a lot of purchase orders. Can you guys tell me why the purchase orders or the purchasing or the procurement should be done first?
To make sure all the materials get there in time.
Exactly. You guys are familiar with the concept of lead time? So for the materials, we do have different lead times. Some materials have the long lead time. So some things are more easily accessible. Like if you are building a residential home, it's easy for you to go to Home Depot and just buy the studs. It's readily available. But sometimes, so for example, I need a lot of concrete. Then you have to talk to the concrete plants to see if they can deliver the concrete on certain day. And even more, like if I'm building something with a special top finish, then you have to import that from Europe. Now, definitely that's something you want to consider first. I was working for Zachary, and Zachary was building this power plant in Freeport, Houston. And a component is called HRSG, heat regeneration steam turbine. Only South Korea can produce this thing. And so after they're ready, it takes the South Korean company 1 week to tie that HRSG on the ship, and it takes the ship 1 month to move from South Korea to Houston, and it takes them another week to untie HRSG. So let me see, maybe it's more visual if I show you how it looks like. You guys can still see my screen, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so this is the HRSG components. Let me see. Yeah, this is the size of that. So this is actually something that can reuse the steam, the heat generated in the power plant. So this will make the power plant more energy efficient. And only South Korea can produce this thing for some reason. Let me see if I can find this. And they basically need to tie this to like a shape like this. It takes them like I mentioned, like 1 week to. Somebody was knocking door. 1 week to tie it up to the ship, and a month to come in here. And so when they go to the port in Houston, and this is how they move it. You guys can see this is extremely heavy, and interesting experience. So when they move this thing to the Freeport, Houston, they figured out there are about like 7 or 8 traffic lights must be removed, because they are moving this one, and the only way go to the job site, they have to remove 7, 8 traffic lights. And they figured out they also have to totally remove a bridge and rebuild a bridge. So just moving this monster from the Port Houston to the job site, it's only, I think I recall, it's only about like 10 miles. It took them another month to move the thing, from the port to the job site because of the logistics concerns. That's the life of a project manager. Like you have to consider all the unexpected, logistic difficulties. So that's why procurement is often the first step in construction. And then we have this pre-con phase. So now you have to assemble the team, do your due diligence, perform value engineering once again, run this estimating again. So as value engineering, you can imagine, let's run the estimate one more time, scheduling to get all the permits and finish all the inspection process. Here is a quick question. What is due diligence for the pre-con construction?
To make sure that all the risks are thought of.
Yes, exactly. The risks are sort of, and if you are the product manager, and let's say if you are building a big community, and for the due diligence, what is the number one thing you need to do?
To make sure the money is at the right place,
Money
to
to the right
secure the
place, financial
financing.
wise. Okay, what else?
What kind of building did you say?
It's, for example, it's a community like a neighborhood, residential. You need to go to the job site, right? You need to go there instead of that's the mentality. A lot of project managers, they just tend to receive the drawings and specifications, and they totally rely on that. They don't go to the job site until the construction activity starts. That's not good. There's a real case study, real world case I want to share with you. So usually we use the symbols to show trees, right? So this is actually a real case shared by my friend. So basically they were building like some residential homes here, and on the drawing, so this is the architecture drawing, this is probably 001A, shows the set map, and they have three things like this. They are trees, right? So that project manager just read the drawing. Instead of go to job site, they would think there are only 3 trees to be removed, but finally day one, when they go to the job site, they saw a forest. You guys know why, right? Because a lot of times the architects just use the symbol to show this is a forest. That is actually due diligence. And the other things kind of like the survey company told us this is how much dirt you need to remove. But if you don't do your own survey, so that's your own survey, that is a molecular. Actually, I also have this real world example, a real world case. A general contractor, they were lucky. They actually hired their own survey company. They have their own surveyors go to the job site and did a survey. There's a big trench. This is actually used to be a river, and they basically need to excavate something and fill this part. That is extremely expensive. So they got a number from the design company, engineering company, but they hired their own surveyor and did a survey. The number is twice higher. So they actually talked to the engineering company. They did the third time survey, and guess what? They figured out the engineering company was using the wrong geo fence information, so their number was totally wrong, and that could potentially save like $500,000 of the general contractor. Why? Because if you didn't do this and you sign a contract, which means you accept the number, whatever number given by the engineering company. So this is due diligence. This is also quite important pre-construction activity. Now, finally, we are going into this construction phase, and the first construction activity is called mobilization. So you start to build your field house, and you establish your temporary storage facilities. You secure the job site. You organize adequate parking and the site access. By the way, talking about my previous company, Zachary again. So they were building a power plant in Cape Canaveral, and it's a 8-acre project. So the power plant takes about 8 acres. And do you know how many buses they have daily just for the commuting between the parking lots and the job site? They actually have about 30 buses, 30 shuttles to move their workers and staff members from the parking lot to the job site. Why? Because a lot of power plants are built very close to water, to the ocean. But those places are also great places for housing, right? For vacational house. So the land for you to have all the temporary storage and for the parking is very limited. So they had to find a place to park all the 1,000, 2,000 cars. And they use the shuttle to move their workers. That is a logistic. Once again, that's a logistic disaster. But this is the job of project manager. This is why they are getting really good payment to consider all the things. And also the temporary facility, utility, temporary electric, water, also trash, debris removal, and also chemical toilets, signage. So everything will be part of mobilization. And then finally, we have this, job site logistics. So you organize the layout. What is the layout? So you have different trailers. You need to know where to put them. And also staging area, traffic control. Staging area means you have smaller chunks of material to move very close to the job site from your main storage. And that area should be carefully designed. And finally, this construction operations, you have set work, foundation, substructure, superstructure, exterior, roofing, and finally the interior finish. And after the structure is done, you usually just do the mechanical part of that, like HVAC, and also the MEP, electrical, and finally the special construction, such as the conveyance system, the elevators. And we also have a very important function for construction phases of project controls. So we have a team. You guys, play the game yourself. So it's basically they collect the earned value on a weekly basis. Usually it's every Monday. They collect what they have done last week, and the number of people, number of hours they used the last week, how much materials they used the last week. They report that into some system, and they calculate their cost and their achievement. So by the end of a month, they will send the bill to the owner. And if something's wrong, so for example, we are spending a lot, but we are still not making enough progress, it shows something's wrong, then they have to find out the reason, identify the deviation, and correct that. This is something called earned value management. Have you guys heard about this? Anybody? Earned value management?
Yeah.
Yeah, so actually this is an official way. Sorry for typo. This is an official way to manage your cash flow, have formulas to develop indicators show if you are late or if you are overrunning your budget. We wouldn't talk about details, but earned value management is very popular for project controls. And finally, we are done with the project. And so we have the punch list, we have substantial completion, we do the final inspection. And then once the owner feels they can move in, they will just do the certificate of occupancy or CO. And after that, we do the commissioning to make sure all the system and equipment are functioning as designed. And we will do the final documentation such as warranties, operation manuals, inspection testing report, and provide as-built drawings, and a final completion like a insurance waiver of a claim. What is a waiver of claim, guys? Waiver claim is, because most projects used to have a lot of lawsuits even after job is done. So basically nowadays, a lot of projects will require the owner and the general contractor to sign this waiver of claim. It shows that the owner agrees after job is turned, after the final documentations are issued, I wouldn't sue the general contractor. Okay. And also we have this retainage. What is retainage? I also mentioned that last week. What is retainage? Retainage means every time I pay you only 90% of the amount I should pay every month. If this is a 5-year project, I don't care. So this month you bill me $1 million. Unfortunately, I will only pay you $900K. Next month you bill me $1.1 million. I will only pay you around $1 million. So I will always leave 10% from each month in my pocket until I finally happy with your project. I will pay all the 10% accumulated in my pocket one time to you. So it's usually 10% today, like a 7, 8, 9%, but usually now it's 10%. Okay, that's called retainage. And then, once it's done, I gave this OM data to the owner. This is operation and maintenance. Basically, it's kind of like you're buying a new car. You have a manual to show where to turn on lights, where to do this. Same thing. For building, you will have this manual showing that what structure are you used for this particular level, how you use this system, where are the sprinklers, and who do you call in terms of maintenance and replacement. That's the OM document. And warranty, we have different types of warranty. Especially we have two main types of warranty. Express warranty is for workmanship. Implied warranty is for the equipment and products installed. Okay, so what is workmanship, guys? Workmanship is showing that how well the construction workers have done their job installing things. The implied warranty shows that, I installed this AC terminal, even I did a great job, but the AC terminal was default, then if something's wrong, please use the implied warranty, not the express warranty. That's the two types of warranty. So I want to share a personal story with you guys, or personal tragedy with you guys, and you tell me what issue it is and what I can do. So I have this investment property in College Station, Texas, student housing, and 2 months ago we had a main water leak from my apartment, the apartment I own. Okay, and the water actually goes from my apartment and it goes to the downstairs and totally destroy the ceilings and the floors of a lady, and they just replaced the wooden floor like a month ago, but the water just go there and just totally damaged everything. And they basically tear down the wall, and they saw there's a nail from the drywall. The nail is supposed to fasten the drywall, okay, going into the main water supply line, and put a small hole there, and after 20 years that water supply line just explode. So question one, is that a workmanship problem or product problem?
Workmanship.
Workmanship. So you guys know it's nothing wrong with the drywall. It's nothing wrong with the water supply line. It is somebody from the construction company, they put the nail in the wrong way, right? Question two, can I still use the warranty to solve the problem?
No.
No,
No, it wasn't a product problem.
And also express warranty covers the workmanship, right? But why can I use that? Because the warranty, no matter is that express warranty or implied warranty, usually only lasts for 1 year.
Oh, it's expired. Yeah.
Yes, the expired. Okay, so number 3 question. Then who I should call or what should I do?
Insurance.
Insurance. And now this is the interesting story. Why I say this is a tragedy. My insurance didn't cover that because they say this apartment and your property is defined everything from this side of wall to that side of wall. So if it's something inside the wall, it's considered as common area. You guys get the point? So for example, if you are sharing a wall with your neighbors and this is apartment, this wall doesn't belong to either you or your neighbor. It belongs to HOA because it's a common area. You guys can get the logic?
Yeah.
Okay. So that's the statement from my insurance company. So I called the insurance company of HOA. Guess what they say? No, they say it's still your property. Why? Because that water supply line finally go through your kitchen. So it's part of your property going into this area. So that's why I say strategy. We are still owning almost like $10,000, to the lady living below us, and we still don't know where to get the money. Who should be responsible for that? Actually, the HOA is considering a lawsuit against that construction company. Unfortunately, I mentioned that, right? About 2/3 of construction company would run out of business after 6 years. Unfortunately, that company is gone. So that's the reality. You guys see how complex how difficult the real world it is, right? Okay, so this is actually a overview of project life cycle. The reason I'm covering this is I found you guys have this excellent training education as engineers, but I think you should have a more complete view of how a project look like, so you can better connect your role with other phases in a project. So you have learned what you have learned in the college, in the graduate school is probably only this much. Like most of you probably learn a lot of design knowledge. Some of you probably learned something related to the pre-construction knowledge, but the entire project is much more complex than you think, and the issues, the legal concerns, the psychology, the human behaviors for the entire project is actually much more complex than that. BIM, like I said last time, has the great potential to be applied anywhere, anytime, right? So like I saw this startup company doing this augmented reality plus BIM application for punch list application. I see this company using this BIM-enabled optimization to tell you where to put trailers, where to put a tower crane, so they wouldn't intervene with others. And the BIM can be used, of course, for the estimating, design, and also BIM is being used for the feasibility study, for the O&M, for facility management, for training. So BIM is everywhere. But the most important one, like I said last time, BIM is actually the pre-construction or pre-con surface. So we also have another concept for this. This is not popular now, but it was popular term before the BIM. It's called a VDC, Virtual Design and Construction. So it basically talks about the pre-con use of BIM. Okay, so BIM, how BIM can benefit pre-con, such as design visualization to improve the common understanding and the coordination, the set logistic plan, so we can know where to put the materials, how we should move the trucks, and how we place the tower crane. As you can see, it actually shows the span of tower crane, so we wouldn't have any spatial conflicts. Model-based estimating of 5D BIM. So we will basically give you a better view of the scope of the project and also try out the different alternatives. It's great for target value engineering. It's great for target value design, and also great for value engineering. And also a particular interesting part is the constructability review and clash detection, especially for MEP coordination. MEP is the killer of constructability review. You guys probably have that experience from your clash detection teamwork. A lot of MEP will have that issue. And once again, I asked the same question, but now I'm asking again, why we are seeing a lot of MEP clashes in the clash detection? Anybody from the class?
Is there no communication between them?
Exactly, because usually MEP is done by a guy and architecture design is done by another guy or lady, right? So usually they are done by different parties, and it's so difficult for them to like each other. I think there's a psychological reason for that. Think about that. The architects are trained, usually in the design, for example, at UF, that's the DCP, right? The College of Architecture. But MEP, they are different group of students who are training very different way, and the training, the methods, everything will be very different. And after you graduate, you go very different career paths. Now you have to work for the same project. Usually people don't talk, and there's no constructual, obligation for them to talk. That's why MEP is always an issue for clash detection. And I will give you more detail later. And of course, pre-con also involves this schedule visualization, the 4D simulation, because this is a good way for you to see how it's built up. And because you visualize that, there's a bigger chance you discover potential issues during the operation, not the clash detection. So that's why somebody called this a 4D simulation the temporal clash detection. Why? Clash detection considers the finish of the project. So let's say the job is done. Now I want to run and see the spatial conflicts. But the 4D simulation can also tell you the time conflicts. For example, in this bar chart, I scheduled some drywall activity. I also scheduled some light fixture activity around the same time. You wouldn't know there's potential problem, but if you visualize that, you see for drywall, they need to put some scaffolds or whatever to do the drywall. But meanwhile, the light fixture guys will do the light fixture installation in the same place. They are actually interviewing each other. You know immediately, oh, there's a problem. So that's why sometimes we call 4D simulation, 4D BIM, the temporal clash detection. Okay, so let's take a 15-minute break, and let's keep talking this BIM for pre-con. Let's return at 5:25. See you guys then.